Canada is changing. Today I'm going to fill you in on some of the most recent developments that we have spotted in Canada, including the never-ending cost of living crisis that has been affecting millions of Canadians across the country. I am also going to reveal several realistic options that will allow you to preserve your purchasing power. Home prices really do stack up to living costs in Canada. Here's the proof. We have some data here from early 2024. Fasten your seatbelts, it's gonna get real bad. Since 2019, home prices in Vancouver, British Columbia, have increased by 25.9%. In Edmonton, we've only seen an increase of 9.5%. In Calgary, home prices have increased by 35%. And this is just a 5-year window that we're talking about in this video. It gets worse. Residents of Toronto are facing real challenges. Home prices in Toronto have increased by 42.8%. However, the Canadians that have been affected the most since the past 5 years are citizens and residents of French Quebec. Home prices in Montreal, Quebec have increased by a staggering 50.9% in just 5 years. Obviously, what led to this crazy increase in home prices across Canada was the mass influx of workers from overseas. There is a definite deficit of real estate in the largest Canadian cities in 2024. Supply and demand drives real estate prices more than anything, leaving many Canadians hopeless, wondering what they can do to preserve their purchasing power. Rent is the biggest expense that many Canadians have. It's where most of their money gets lost. How do we look in terms of electricity? Actually, not that bad. In most Canadian provinces, electricity prices have increased only by 1% to 11%. This is very positive news for Canadians, except for residents and citizens of Alberta, where electricity prices have increased by 81%. One of the biggest issues in Canada is that Canadians aren't just dealing with federal taxes, they also have to pay provincial taxes to the government of Quebec, to the government of Ontario, to the government of British Columbia, right? There are two different types of taxes Canadians have to pay. Unlike citizens and residents of Texas and Florida, who only have to pay federal income taxes, Canadians are being dealt a much worse hand. While income tax rates haven't really increased in provinces like Ontario and British Columbia, income tax thresholds have increased. Price of beef, we're talking beef stewing cuts, beef sirloin, beef rib cuts, ground beef, you name it. The cost of beef has increased tremendously in Canada. If we just have a look at the past 4 years, we can see increases in the cost of beef ranging anywhere from 20% to 50%. And it doesn't just stop with beef. We can name many more proteins where we can see that the cost has increased. It doesn't just stop with beef. If we have a look at chicken, bacon, lamb, we can also see tremendous increases that happened over the past 4 years. The last health crisis really made grocery shopping much more expensive for Canadians living in Canada. Pre-health crisis, a liter of milk cost you roughly $2.50 in Canada. Now in 2024, you're looking at $2.90. I know this doesn't sound like a lot, but it is still a 40-cent increase. The same can be said about dental care in Canada. We're talking basic dental cleaning, we're talking deep cleaning, crowns, fillings, implants. The cost of these services has increased by at least 20% since 2020. Now that we completed addressing the severity of the cost of living crisis in Canada, how can you actually escape Canada for good? There are a couple of steps that you have to complete before you can leave Canada for good. First question that you have to ask yourself is, how will I make ends meet overseas? If you are retired, if you are a pensioner, then you may have a pension from the Canadian government that will allow you to have enough passive income to support yourself in a country like Paraguay or Argentina. What happens if you are a young buck and you don't have any passive income right now? You have to get some kind of online job. Unless you are already a well-experienced digital person, you have potentially income through cryptocurrencies, or maybe have income through an online business. Unless you have these prerequisites, you have to get going right now. Get started looking for jobs. However, what's more important than anything is that you get educated, that you get skilled. When you're skilled, chances of you obtaining a job are just that much greater. So getting experience is the first step. You can go online, you can purchase courses. As always, specialization is the key. You want to find an area to specialize in. And there are tons of areas where you can acquire expertise, including digital marketing, online sales, coding, consulting, and many others. But let's be realistic. To support yourself outside of Canada, you will need a lot less income. Why? Other countries are also experiencing inflation, but since your income will be earned in dollars, you will have much greater purchasing power in countries like Paraguay and Argentina. The second thing that you must complete is to obtain residency outside of Canada. If you're currently considered an immigrant in Canada, then you have to get residency in another country. Oftentimes that's what we're seeing from people. They have to get residency outside of Canada before the Canadian authorities give them the green light to leave the country. Oftentimes this is a requirement. It depends on your province. It depends on your status in Canada, whether you're a citizen, whether you're a resident, what current ties you have to the country. Some people may have to quit their job, close their business, close their bank accounts, return their driver's license. We've even seen instances where the person had to fully pay off their mortgage to leave Canada. Some people even have to cancel their cell phone plans or sell their homes. It's crazy. But Canada wants you to return most of what Canada gave you before Canada will say goodbye to you. And you surrender Canadian residency and your Canadian home as well. The question is always, at what point do you become a non-resident of Canada? As I have talked about before, the Canadian government wants you to quit a lot of things before they will allow you to leave to Canada. We're talking about giving up your tax residency status in Canada. Once all the boxes have been checked and you have departed Canada and you have obtained residency in another country, you may be allowed to leave Canada in terms of taxes. The same also holds true for your dependents, your spouse, your children. If they want to go live overseas, they have to initiate and complete this whole process before the Canadian authorities will allow them to leave Canada. Even if you left Canada successfully and you maintain certain assets in the country, especially profit-generating assets, you still have to pay income taxes on your locally sourced income to the Canadian authorities. Canada also has a departure tax. It is real. It is not a bluff. When you leave Canada, even if you haven't sold certain types of properties, you have to pay taxes on those properties. The tax rates you have to pay are obviously predicated on the buy and sell price. It's called the FMV, the fair market value. This whole process is called a deemed disposition, and you have to report any capital gains taxes that resulted from this undertaking. The deemed disposition and departure tax are the same thing. A lot of things could be included here. Your departure tax may include the following items: personal collections, jewelry, paintings, and shares. There may be additional properties that fall into this tax trap. Like America, Canada does not make it easy for you to go. So you have to make a definite decision and weigh the pros and cons and whether you're willing to pay the taxes the Canadian government wants from you. You will have to pay something before you can leave Canada. It will not be a free undertaking. Obviously, there are a few countries that we recommend to Canadian expats. Many Canadians have gotten Panamanian residency since the past health crisis. It is a very popular destination for Canadians for the simple reason that the weather is just a lot better than up in Canada. Snowbirds love tropical weather, and many of them spend half a year or more in a tropical country like Panama. To become a resident of Panama, you have a couple of options. You can incorporate a Panamanian corporation, you get a work permit, so you sponsor yourself, and you start living in Canada full time. Now, to convert from temporary to permanent residency in Panama, you actually have to pay yourself a salary, and you must have paid yourself payroll taxes. If you haven't done that, the Panamanian government may not allow you to change your status from temporary residency to permanent residency in Panama. You could also purchase real estate worth $300,000. Another interesting option is Paraguay. It is a country located in the heart of South America where temporary residency is actually quite unproblematic. You don't have to prove economic solvency. You can relatively easily move to Paraguay. There are some requirements that you must meet to qualify for Paraguayan residency. The number one requirement is to be from an ally country. If not, you have to get an entry permit. You have to get sponsored, and that is a very problematic, difficult, and not appealing process. So if you're from an ally country, which you are because you are Canadian, it will be easy for you to get residency in Paraguay. So you have already met the first requirement because Paraguay retains good official relations with the country of Canada. The second thing that you need is a clean criminal record. You heard me right, it has to be clean, spotless, can't have anything on it. You also need your passport, your birth certificate, and a couple of other documents depending on your situation, on your marital status and life status. Another country that you could consider is Argentina. However, Argentina taxes you on your worldwide income, plus a wealth tax may be applied as well. So out of the three countries we're talking about, Panama, Paraguay, and Argentina, Argentina is the least tax-friendly country. I always say that people move to Argentina for lifestyle reasons, not tax reasons, because you aren't really gaining that much. You know, from a tax perspective, you aren't gaining that much when you're moving to Argentina. You can gain in terms of lifestyle and cost of living, but you will still be taxed as a resident of Argentina. You may be taxed less or more depending on your status, depending on how much income you have, depending on how much foreign assets you have, because maybe the wealth tax will affect you, and again, that's fully dependent on your assets. Are you ready to leave the constant cost of living crisis in Canada to start a new life in Panama, Paraguay, Argentina? If you're interested in getting residency in one of these three countries, please email us. You should see our website displayed on the screen. There should also be a link below the video. Please contact us, and we really look forward to working with you. Thank you so much for watching Nomad Elite. We see you on the next video.